Hi, HR Nation. Welcome back to another episode of the HR Leaders Podcast, the show where we explore the future of work with industry experts and HR executives in the world's leading global brands. Today, we have a special guest on the show. We're joined by LaQuenta Jacobs, Chief Diversity Officer at XPO Logistics. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I am doing well, Chris. Thank you for having me. How are you today?
I'm good. I was just sort of fooled by your optical illusion that you're in the office, but you're not in the office, but it looks like you're in the office. So
Call me out, Chris.
yeah. Well, for those people on audio, we'll explain. So when LaQuenta came in a call, she has a photo, an exact positional photo of our office, but as a Zoom background. So you don't even know she's not in the office as well. It's genius as well, but you've done a good job of it.
Yeah. So
Tell everyone a little bit more about yourself personally and your journey to where we are today.
no problem. So, Chris, my career started in human resources about 23 years ago. I graduated from Clark Atlanta University with a degree in psychology, and I decided to enter the field of HR. I started off with the recruiting discipline, and then I moved from there into the learning and development discipline. And then from there, I moved into more of a generalist function. And I had an opportunity really to work for some pretty amazing brands to help me build my career and my DE&I footprint. And so one of the good things about my background that has positioned me for success in my current role is that I've dibbled and dabbled in diversity, equity, and inclusion for a large portion of my career, sponsoring inclusion programs, being a member or a voting board member of different programs, and then being the executive sponsor for several of those programs. And so today I sit in the Chief Diversity Officer role for XPO Logistics. Mm-hmm. Now, personally, I am the best auntie in the world. You can ask my niece, they can vouch for that. So I have some beautiful nieces, great nieces. I am an avid cooker. I love to cook and entertain. And so
what's your go-to dish? What's your signature? What's the ones where the family's like, yeah, that's the one?
So I would say I do a wrapped or braided stuffed salmon. Ooh. That my family is always asking for. Yeah. So it's a salmon stuffed with crab meat and a little bit of my special sauce on top that they typically ask for.
Nice. It's interesting because when you started, probably the Chief Diversity Officer role didn't exist.
It did not exist. So this was a role that I was appointed to within our organization. And so I've had the pleasure of working with our leadership team to build our program from the ground up.
So are you one of the few people that actually chose to work in HR? Because there's many people, out of the 400 episodes, there's maybe like 10, 15 people that actually was very intentional about pursuing this as a career.
HR it tends to be a melting ground, right? You get a ton of people who are interested over a course of their careers from like marketing and operations. And then you get purists like me who've worked in it, for a large portion of their careers. And I think that's the beautiful thing about the work that we do. Touching people and impacting people has an intersectionality between all pieces of the business. And so you tend to find yourself as a leader migrating towards leadership development and organizational development and leading people and building programs that build cultures. And when you find yourself with that passion, it's hard not to go into the field of HR to help lift that or move that forward for organizations.
Yeah. From a personal perspective, what were some of the important turning points in your life?
So there were a couple of turning points for me that I can talk about. One of the most pivotal turning points in my career was making the decision to take a step forward or a step aside to focus on my marriage and my children. I was married later in life, and my husband was an entrepreneur, and he had 2 daughters. And so I made the personal choice to step back out of an executive role into an organization to have more time to dedicate towards my family. And then I would say the second pivotal point for me was choosing to pursue a role of greater responsibility, kind of once I got my sea legs up under me, after being told no, or after being told by my leadership team that they didn't see me in that capacity. I had to make a personal decision to step away from a company and a culture where I was very comfortable, friends and colleagues that I worked with for years, to really dig in and pursue where I felt like I could be of a bigger and better contribution to an organization. I'm glad I did, because I wouldn't be at XPO if I hadn't taken that step.
Yeah. How did that make you feel?
Both of those examples have shaped me as a female leader. One of them has helped me on my empathy and compassion side and understanding the whole person and balancing that when you are managing and leading teams. It's also taught me how to balance life and things that are important to me, as well as knowing my value and my understanding and my capabilities and not allowing someone else to tell me what those things are. but really finding an organization that fits with me and what I can bring to the table.
Yeah, I absolutely love everything you just said, by the way. And my wife and I kind of are in the position as new parents, and I'm an entrepreneur, and she primarily looks after our daughter more so I can go out and do what I do. But I always say that I have the easy job. We've only got one daughter; she's 3, but I feel like that is a
That's a huge responsibility.
Yeah, it does. It makes you feel like being an entrepreneur is easy, and all the parents listening can understand, no matter what, as well. But she struggled for a while. She's working in it now, but she did struggle for a while that she felt like she lost a bit of her identity when she left the workplace and became a full-time parent for a year and a half, I think it was, before she's now back in the workplace, and she kind of felt like she's found an identity again. Because for a while it kind of felt like it was just me pursuing my career and she's at home looking after our daughter, which is obviously a huge responsibility and incredible, but sometimes it can be difficult. You feel like you lose that identity, which is what she's telling me that is along the way. Does that resonate with you?
It does resonate for me. And, I think it resonates both for women and men in the workplace. We often think of the parental role being that role of a mother, and we don't often give the same consideration of fathers who, are working and balancing the need to be present and providers in their home. And so I think it speaks to both, right? It is understanding the whole person. We're parents first. Above everything else, right? And we work to create lifestyles and opportunities for our children. And so often that becomes muddied when organizations aren't supportive of the whole person. So I absolutely understand the journey that your wife went through trying to find her new identity. I even went through that journey getting divorced. I was married for a few years. I became this bonus mom. I was entrenched in my children. And then when I walked away from that, I had to really redefine, like, well, who am I? I remember there was a time I went to the grocery store and I went grocery shopping in my new place. And I had a bunch of stuff in my grocery cart that I didn't even like. And I was like, when I got home and got ready to put it in the refrigerator, I was like, I don't even drink this. Like, why do I have this? You know what I mean?
That's so
and so
funny.
it is redefining yourself and adjusting and giving yourself space. I think that's the most important thing, is giving yourself space to re-identify as life progresses.
Mm-hmm. What role has gender played in your career?
I love walking in this space, right? I love being a female leader. But a bit of insight into my life, I grew up with a mother who was an entrepreneur. And so my mom was my first example of what being a boss, quote unquote, is, right? And I watched her kind of navigate running a chain of dry cleaners and employees at various locations. But there were a couple of things that I saw her always do. She was gracious, she was kind, she was available, she was supportive, right? And she set kind of the tone for the atmosphere. And having that example has helped me navigate my career on being gracious and being kind, being available, being a servant, and being a leader. And that role model has helped me really identify what my fingerprint is as a leader.
Do you think that your career would have been different if you were a man?
I don't know that I would have, I don't know the answer to that. I think I would have had the same principles because I would have grown up with the same parents, right? My dad was all about accountability. Your word is your bond. If you say you're going to do it, do it. I remember getting in trouble many times because I said I was going to do something I didn't, right? And I was held accountable. Right. I was held accountable for that. And my mother was always about how you talk to people. What you say is important. You can't take your words back. So I think regardless of being a male or a female, or identifying as a male or a female, that I would have had the same principles leading me and guiding me as a leader.
The past year itself is being incredibly challenging, right? In many ways. What are you doing as a result? And, what advice would you give to our audience on how to kind of persevere through these times where it's tough, right?
Look, I think we've all have learned how to master the remote work environment, and
I wouldn't say I mastered it. I'm just putting it out there. I don't want to say I have, but yeah, maybe some other people have. I'm still struggling.
Look, that's a good point. We've all learned how to navigate it.
Navigate. Yeah.
We're navigating the remote work environment, and many of us living, in one component of our house and working in a different component of our homes. But the thing I will say is being present with friends and family, and learning to navigate it in a completely different way has been, something that I've learned professionally. So a couple points: self-care, building in time for me. When I initially started to work from home, I was working sun up to sundown, right? It's kind of comfortable. I was at my computer at 7 in the morning. About 8 o'clock at night, I looked up and it's like, oh, it's time.
It's dark, and then you
Time to
wake up,
log
it's
off,
dark, you
right?
go to
It's
bed, it's
dark.
dark.
It's kind of
Yeah.
time to log off. So giving myself structure. I had to move my office out of my normal living space and carve out a space so that I went to work, right? I continued to dress up like I was going to work so that I would kind of come outside of the home environment, and I performed at work, and then I came back and lived in my space. Also, communication and checking in, I think, is so important. Checking in on your friends and your family, checking in on your colleagues, but also raising your hand and letting people know I need you to check in on me. And then lastly, recognizing my own mental health, when I was happy, when I was sad, why I was happy, why I was sad. And for me, I bought a Peloton.
Oh, nice. You managed to get hold of one. They were like gold dust. Trying to get hold of Peloton, it was impossible.
I promise you, when they called me and told me that it was arriving, I was like, yay. So I bought a Peloton. And that was a way for me to, exercise and kind of release some stress and just have some fun, kind of swarm with my friends. If you're a Pelotonian, you know what I mean when I say that. Kind of swarm with my friends on rides, and that was a way for me to connect. Outside of my home environment. Yeah. So I would definitely say to people, find some balance, do some things for yourself that are important. Self-care is so important. You cannot give from an empty cup. So figure out how to fill your cup. And then also, stay in touch with your family and friends. Don't isolate. Create intentional opportunities to connect.
Yeah. As you've probably seen, even during this period, many companies are appointing chief diversity officers for the very first time. How do we create the right environment to help them succeed?
So the work can't be done and can't be shouldered on one person. It has to be an organizational strategy. And so you need support, you need allies in the business. And so I know we're talking to an HR community. And so I would say, as you think about your HR partnerships with your diversity officers or your diversity leaders, it's how can our organization come together to bring support to those particular initiatives? Mm-hmm. Because when we put that work and the burden on one person's shoulders, it can be a heavy job. It could be a heavy goal to move or, ship to turn. And so support and allyship and inclusion are areas that I think we can offer the function a lot of support, especially to bring the initiatives to life.
I kind of look at it in the same way of when you talk about culture, right? Culture doesn't sit within a function, it's the whole business.
Absolutely.
Right. So when you talk about D&I, I try kind of sometimes get frustrated when I hear people talk about it like it sits in this silo, in this function. No, it's the business. It's a business issue. Not this, this one person that's now responsible for D&I.
The other thing that I think is pretty interesting in a conversation that I'm having internal to my organization is that we have to move away from the stereotype about diversity being visible and only being tied to the things that we can see. Our organization is a fully diverse organization based on the components that make up each individual. Your socioeconomic status, how you sexually identify, your familial relationships, where you grew up, your education, your background, all of those things are the things that make you diverse. A person is not diverse. I'm either a Black female, a Hispanic man, an indigenous female or man. Those are the components that identify my race and my culture. But the things that make me diverse are the experiences that I've had. And so when I think about why the work of diversity doesn't always move forward, I think it's because many people don't see themselves in the work. And as you said, it has to be a business strategy. When we're thinking about rolling out new technology, have we thought about all of the end users that are going to use our products? Have we made sure that it's closed captioning, or we've thought about our differently enabled employees or people who speak different languages, or have we thought about the lighting and the font size and what we're doing around our technology? Have we made it inclusive? A monochromatic organization isn't going to get you there. So an organization that has diversity of thought and concepts, and you're including people in those products and those designs, is what's going to get you to the next level.
Yeah.
So I would encourage people to think about diversity, not just about representation, but how do you bring and include an employee's full self in the work that they're doing.
And isn't it interesting that we've been doing that for a long time for our customers?
Absolutely.
But yet we're still doing it for our own people. And we're definitely held accountable for making sure that we do it with our customers, but yet it falls short. The question that always comes up from the HR community, so I'll ask you it, is how do we hold the business accountable?
So you have to first know who you are as an organization. And I tell people this all the time. You cannot build a diversity strategy if you don't know who you are as an organization. So what's your representation look like? What does your organization look like? Who makes up your organization? And what's important to your organization? Every company that you work for is going to have a different pillar around diversity that is going to be their area of focus. No one is an expert in all of the areas, but you have to have a strategy in place that aligns to the needs. If you're building a pipeline, what are you building your pipeline for? What talent are you trying to bring into the organization? Measure it and measure the initiatives you're doing. If it's not yielding the results that you want, go back and redesign and then measure. Tie it to strategy. Hold all employees accountable for the behaviors that you want in your organization. So have clear vision around your organization, have a clear mission around your organization, and how does diversity play into that? Who are you as a company, and are you living those values every day? Mm-hmm. Measure that, hold people accountable that aren't aligning to that, and then hire the right people within your organization. And then lastly, identify your strategic goals as a company and ensure that your diversity programs align to that. So if we want to be the top 10 global provider in the world, what is going to get us there? It's a workforce that's diverse. It's products and innovation that are diverse. It's, ensuring that we stay at the top of the industry. And if you think about it that way, diversity, equity, and inclusion plays a component in all of that work. So it's aligning your business strategy and aligning your initiatives so that you can get to the end goal.
No, I love that. Talking about some of those projects in your career, what's one project that I know it's probably quite a hard question to answer, but what's one project in your career that you're most proud of?
I am absolutely proud of the work that we have done as an organization since standing up the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Office. But one of the things that we're doing right now are our leadership programs and the design around those leadership programs and the look that we have taken around what a program and what participation in a program looks like. And we haven't just focused on the business objectives, but we focused on how do we get the person ready to lead, right? How do we ensure the person has the support that they need to lead? And so components around mentoring, components around assessing your strengths and your weaknesses, support around those areas to understand how do I strengthen myself in an area that's really critical to the role, but it's not my organic strength. And then lastly, teaching people the business so that they can be successful. We often tap talent on the shoulder because they're bright or they delivered a great project. And then once we promote them, we leave them there. Figure it out.
Good luck.
You'll make it. You got it. But I think one of the programs that we've really done, or the work that we're doing now, is looking at the whole person and developing that whole person so that they're ready to lead.
Mm-hmm. What are you hoping the outcome is going to be of that program?
More confident leaders, leaders that are able to connect better with the employees in our organization, leaders that are able to model behavior for employees, and that we're able to shift and lift our company culture so that we have the inherent ability to accept the diversity that we're bringing into the organization.
Kind of looking on the sort of horizon, where do you see the next focus for D&I moving forward?
So I think in every component of life, there's always been a catalyst for change, right? So when I think about the civil rights movement, there was a catalyst for change, which was segregation. When I think about the civil rights movement for the LGBTQ, there was a catalyst for change around protection and civil rights. And so last year, we found ourselves with a catalyst for change with equality and social justice and, specifically the George Floyd movement. And so I think there's always a catalyst that moves us forward. Or an event that moves us forward. And so what I think we are on now is a path around equality and really realizing the importance of equal access, equal opportunity, equal pay for people. And organizations are really focused on culture and what it means to come work for our company. Employees are looking for something more than just a job. Yeah. And I think the pandemic has made a lot of organizations realize that just offering a job isn't enough. You have to create and engage your employees within an experience. And so I think the work around diversity, equity, inclusion is more critical than it has ever been because it is the heart and soul of what makes your organization an organization where people want to come work. And so there's got to be a social impact that you're having within your organization. There has to be a clearly defined strategy around how you're developing people and employees. And there's got to be a commitment to engaging a diverse workforce so that you are able to move your products and services forward. If you can't offer that, you're not going to be able to keep the talent that you want within your organization.
And again, that's one of the things we've seen over the last 18 months is we need to be engaging the whole human, the whole
Absolutely.
person. You know, I don't even almost see people as employees anymore. It's the entire person, right? As well. It's a huge mindset shift for organizations, but so important. And I've really enjoyed speaking to you because it almost feels like, just from getting to know you on this podcast, that you were meant to sit in this seat. Whether you knew it or not, right? Everything seemed to kind of, it's like, yeah. Everything you've told me, right, from the very, very beginning, is kind of, as we said, you know, the role of the chief diversity officer when you would have been studying didn't even exist. There probably wasn't even D&I managers back then in companies, right? But yet where we are now, it's so prevalent, and so having such a huge impact on people's lives.
Our steps are ordered, right?
Yeah, it's just fascinating. Last question before I let you go. What would you have told your younger self when entering the D&I function or this space? You know, because there's so many that are on their journey to where you are now. What advice would you give?
So the very first thing I would have told my younger self is to create space for yourself, to feel the work, feel the burden of the work, understand the enormity of the work, and create a tribe around you so that you have resources and people that you can talk through to help you navigate. I would also say don't be married to one way to getting to a goal. Know that there's multiple ways to get to a goal, and be open to the process and be committed to the outcome, but open to a process to get there. The last thing I would have said to myself is study, learn, continue to invest in your knowledge, continue to, you know, keep that muscle strong, and then get outside of your comfort zone and meet people. Ask the questions, have cultural curiosity, because if you don't, you're managing from your own lens. And oftentimes when you're managing from your own lens, you're missing opportunities to make the impact broader.
Absolutely love that. Thanks so much. And then very last thing, where can people connect with you? If they want to reach out to you personally, say hi, connect on that point of that advice at the end, where can they connect with you?
Definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. I am LaQuenta, LaQuenta Jacobs, Chief Diversity Officer for XPO Logistics on LinkedIn. I would more than welcome the connection and the networking.
Amazing. Well, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you so much, Chris.
It was great.
Thank you.